So Matt Bracken, I want to take a few calls in this hour and hand it over to you, but we have this clip of just last week. There's even more detailed clips the week before that where you laid out and I laid out this whole scenario, and now we're seeing it. What do you make of the situation we're in right now?
Well, the story in the Washington Post, I think, is huge. You almost cannot underestimate how the Washington Post is being used by a conduit. But I think that I'm actually a little bit optimistic because I think that they're still behind the curve. You know, they're still thinking that they're leading as the mainstream media, but they're actually trailing now. They're being outed so fast as fake news that their tricks aren't working. Like we said last week, once you see the wizard behind the curtain, you can't close the curtain and make us unsee it. We've seen the wizard. We know that the mainstream media is just feeding PsyOps propaganda. You know, the polls are nothing but propaganda. Right before the election, Hillary up 12 points, just propaganda, and it's not working. And when you see them trying to discredit Trump by associating him with InfoWars, it just shows how far behind the curve they really are. And they're stuck in the old paradigm, the paradigm that lost them the election. But that doesn't make them less dangerous.
I was about to say, yes, everything they do turns to crap. They have the opposite of a Midas touch. The problem is they're insane. They're still in power. They're escalating each threat continuum level. I see this. The math's very easy. It spells disaster. I mean, they're really going to go for broke.
Well, they're doubling down. It's the old General Honore doubling down on stupid. You know, they've got no other trick. The only trick that they've got is to attack the alt-right, you know, the conservative new media, but they're so far behind the curve, they don't realize they've already been left in the dust. They've become a laughingstock.
They are dinosaurs. I mean, Pelosi's like this. Reportedly, Hillary and everybody's falling apart. Pelosi is like someone in command now of the opposition with Soros, two doddering, insane people.
And Soros is definitely desperate. You know, Soros is seeing his entire castle crumbling before his eyes. And like Pelosi and some of the others, they're you know, multiple procedures to keep them from showing their real age.
So here's the next question. The week before Hitler committed suicide, he was giving orders to General Steiner, who had 1/10 the force Hitler thought he had, and was giving armies to, you know, orders to armies that were already destroyed. Have we reached that point where they're kind of just giving, like, they're giving orders to their legs, but we already cut their legs off? Or could they really try to start a war or something before they're removed? Because I know the intelligence agencies, I don't lionize them, but they are more awake than the average person, and they're really blocking what's happening.
Well, the intelligence agencies, but at the top, you know, Clapper and Brennan, I don't trust at all. As far as I'm concerned, they're moles. You know, as far as I'm concerned, they lean more towards traitor than patriot.
No, I totally agree. But so we know it was U.S. intelligence that leaked the info is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that's their #1 concern.
Well, in the next 3 weeks, we could definitely see something, you know, a true crisis, say, you know, a chemical attack in Israel, something like that. I would put nothing off of the table.
How big is it they're moving against Netanyahu? I mean, Obama wouldn't have moved against Netanyahu last week if he didn't have something he thought that was big, and now we know they're trying to indict and arrest Netanyahu. Police are at his house right now. But
it's so patently obvious. That's the thing. It's so obvious that this is Obama and Soros's desperation move. This is their going out the door, trying to, you know. I
totally agree. So what other moves do you think they have? Because you brought up the grid situation, and then it popped right out.
Yeah, and see, this is really important. This is why my first novel, Enemies Foreign and Domestic, begins with a false flag operation, and for the purpose of putting in people's minds that don't always believe, you know, the obvious story that you see in the newspaper or on TV. There can be other reasons, other things behind it. We're now at the point where any kind of a partial grid collapse in this country, people wouldn't think that it was Russia doing it. They would think it was Obama doing it. And Brennan and Clapper and, you know, the other Confederates that they have.
But they're so disconnected, as you just said, they may do it.
They may, but it's, you know, there's going to be a new sheriff in town, and the forensics will still be around.
Sure, you know, so your gut's telling you that we've turned the tide then?
I hope so. That doesn't mean that they won't try something desperate.
No, but what's your gut tell you? Because, I mean...
My gut tells me that something, you know, outrageous could happen in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what my gut says.
I don't know that if it's going to, I don't know it's going to stop the inauguration. And the worst actions that they take at this point, all of the forensics the cyber forensics will be preserved. And when the new team comes in, people will be facing prison for any kind of,
well, I agree. There's been this thing, don't go after the last group and we'll leave you alone. Trump has to, just a part of duty, has to purge these people. I mean, thousands of people have to get indicted and go to prison, bare minimum.
Well, I like the fact that, if Jeff Sessions is indeed approved, I think that there are probably, dozens of nests of FBI agents with plenty of integrity. They've been keeping their private file all along.
Oh yeah, the FBI in New York has all the pedophile stuff.
Yeah, well, not only the pedophile stuff, but I mean all of the pay to play for Hillary at the State Department. All of these things. They
tried to bribe them on tape. 3 different groups of FBI. They would bribe them on the spot, and they would say, the FBI would say, it came out in WikiLeaks. And in the congressional hearing, I mean, as you know, they'd say, this is illegal. And they go, no, we've been given authorization by the Secretary of State to make these offers of jobs if you'll drop this. I mean, talk about arrogance, Matt.
Well, just wait until the new regime is in power. And these FBI agents that were told to stand down, that have been, grinding their teeth for the last year and a half. But meanwhile, they've been still continuing their investigations because that's what they do. These senior investigators, it's in their bone marrow. Telling them to stand down just makes them dig in harder, like trying to pull a bone away from a mad pit bull. You can order the pit bull to drop the bone, but he's just going to hide it. And, you're not going to take it away from him. And these investigators, I think that they're going to put files that are practically complete in front of Jeff Sessions. Then it'll be between DOJ and President Trump.
No, I agree. No, Trump is actually going to go after him. They know that. I don't know why Trump's in a double game then, acting conciliatory in public when he's planning to go after him when they already know.
Well, he has to act conciliatory in public because, you don't want to warn the person that is still got the nuclear football being carried around behind him. You don't want to overtly warn the guy in the open that, you might be facing prison time.
No, I agree, so but they know it's bull.
I don't know. I mean, they've got to be desperate. Now, Obama, I think he could even leave the country. I mean, come to it. But I think a lot will be exposed. Remember, Trump was also, and this is where the mainstream media, they try to discredit all of these along with, say, Pizzagate, things like that. Find one false allegation in 1,000 Reddit replies and discredit the entire actual conspiracy. But Trump never did believe the Obama background fiction. Personally, I think he was born in Hawaii, but just his father was probably Frank Marshall Davis.
That's 100%.
The fellow that wrote the book and made the movie.
It's 100%. It's his photos of him in the same couch, same house. It's in his book. His grandfather was CIA. They admitted Davis was, quote, like his dad. He stayed there for the summers. And then a
pedophile.
Yeah.
A pornographer and a pedophile.
That's right.
Who swung both ways. Imagine him as the mentor to your teenage boy.
And by the way, as you know, since you seem to know about this, it's well documented. Davis is one of the head communists using sex crimes and sex infiltrators to try to infiltrate and take over the Democratic Party in black groups. He ran newspapers all over the country. He was actually got direct orders from the Politburo. So the father of Obama was one of the highest level Soviet spies in this country for 30 years.
Right. And to me, it's hard not to think that we must be in some kind of an end time or fourth turning or whatever you want to call it, because to me, it's like the plot of Rosemary's Baby or one of these Damien movies. You've got the baby of the left Lucifer and the Islam Lucifer becoming president of the United States. If you submitted that as a screenplay to Hollywood, they would think it was outrageous, but it happened.
Who first said, you're a writer, who first said truth stranger than fiction? Because it is.
Absolutely. It's frequent that coincidences happen, and I say, I could never put that in a book. It's just not believable. But they actually do happen.
I mean, they really are. Let me ask this question. I want to take a few phone calls and hand the show over to you. I want to play this clip from last week where you predicted the whole power plant thing, and they start rolling that out, and they're clearly beta testing it. Why? I don't get it. They conquered America, the globalists. They run it. Why then kill the prosperity, go after people, and wreck it all when they're in charge of it? It's crazy.
Well, it's like World War II when the Germans are at the knocking at the door of Moscow and Stalingrad, it looks like you're on the verge of complete victory and annihilation of your enemies, but really the wave has gone all the way up the beach as far as it's going to go. And from then on, it's on the way out. So the globalists are looking at Brexit and then Trump, and now a slew of elections coming up in Europe, and the globalists are going to be trounced. And we're now in the post-Moscow, post-Stalingrad phase of World War II, where they get beaten all the way back.
No, I agree. I use that analogy constantly because it's so true. They've put all their energy and everything in, and now, just like a wave going back, everything's reversing. And historically, as you know, these are 100-year waves. They've got 100 years of being backpedaling now, and they finally get it.
I think this is a grand super cycle. I think a Kondratiev cycle, which is, enough generations that nobody remembers the last big, Great Depression.
I agree. This is a mega quickening.
This is a millennial cycle. I think this would have to be considered a super cycle.
I agree. And the enemy, I mean, have you read all their writings of their own people? Because they think we're dumb and don't read, editorials he puts out, Soros or Financial Times. They admit everything's destroyed. It's over. Oh, my God, they're going to hang us. Red alert. I mean, they are in panic mode right now.
And remember, they do believe that they have parachutes. This makes them very dangerous because they personally think that no matter what happens, they can jump on their Gulfstream and fly to Patagonia or to New Zealand or one of the other places where they have an estate with 5 years worth of generator
power.
They
have armored redoubts.
Yeah, so they think that no matter what, they get away. So that makes them dangerous in a sense that, a family man, nobody living in a city or the suburbs actually wants to see the grid go down, chaos and cannibalism.
But the elites hate the public, and they even talk about it and get off on it. But here's what they don't get. Literally, the most hardcore group, most patriotic, most anti-New World Order is the soldiers, and the best of those are then the security people. I don't know of security people that don't hate every one of them and basically have a deck of cards wanting to kill them. Don't they get that as soon as they had this nuclear war scenario and they're in a bunker, that day one, the security guys are going to walk in and say, sorry, we're going to kill you right now. And by the way, your family right along with you. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, and it's not only the active duty and the actively employed security guys. I would say everybody from approximately the Vietnam, just in terms of age, everybody from the Vietnam generation on.
When they have nothing to lose, don't these globalists realize that they're going to have like 10 million soldiers coming after them?
Well, it's even more than that because, we've been world leaders at training guerrillas. I mean, the Special Forces mission, the Green Berets, the Army Special Forces, their bread and butter mission is to go into a place
force multiply
and train guerrillas. Well, you take one Green Beret. I don't care if he's 60 or if he's 26. You take one Green Beret and a Boy Scout troop, and in a month, you've got a guerrilla platoon. So it's much more than the individual former spec ops guy or infantry, or airborne, ranger.
No, I agree, but Marines. I'm saying the very security of all these people literally hate their guts,
including the pilots. When they don't fly their own jets, with very few exceptions.
Oh, that's another point. I don't know a pilot that isn't.
Their pilots are all ex-Navy and Air Force. Yeah. Their pilots might turn around and land them at a secure facility in Omaha instead of flying to Patagonia. Something they might want to think about.
And by the way, Matt Bracken, we're not just saying this to feel good. I mean, we're really telling the truth right now. So that's why it's important. I mean, when I hear the way Soros and Hillary treat their security people, I mean, they treat them like, it's even on top of it, they treat them like filth. They have no idea what's going to happen to them.
Well, it's not, when you say security, I'm thinking military, ex-military, former military.
No, that's who they have. Sure. It's like Blackwater type people.
Right. And, in Benghazi, the 13 hours thing, the SEAL community counts the former SEAL as a SEAL. He's not, a guy who just used to be a SEAL. He's considered a SEAL doing his duty. Now he's working for the CIA, or he might be working private security for the State Department, what have you. But these guys, former and active, they still have that military ethos, and they do take their oath very seriously, the oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So this goes doubly for the pilots. You don't just come out of Embry-Riddle flight school and go fly Gulfstreams for George Soros. The guy that is flying for George Soros might hate his guts. He might be an ex-Air Force guy. And when it comes time to fly him to Patagonia, the plane might land inside of Area 51, surrounded by, white Air Force pickup trucks. So it's something that these people that have a Gulfstream escape plan should really think about the loyalty of their pilots when they get in that airplane.
By the way, we're not just saying this. That's why, we just kicked their ass all over the world in the last year. Don't they get that the move is happening? This is the counteroffensive. We're winning every battle, and they think they're going to double down against us and beat us. I agree we're going to beat them. I just hope they don't start a nuclear war in the process, Matt.
That's right. I'm heartened by this Washington Post article because it's such a false note. It's a puny. It's like a little counterattack. Even in the spring of '45, after the Battle of the Bulge, in the Hurtgen Forest and all of the Germans were still capable of launching small counterattacks. Back in the bunker, Hitler's thinking that these were actually going to work. The German generals didn't think they were going to work. They were just going to, okay, well, that's, the Americans have left us an opening, we'll attack. But this pitiful little Washington Post grid down scenario story is such an obvious fake news story. It was debunked so quickly. Now they've, just like with my story about the shooting into the stadium, my first novel, they've taken grid down off of their playbook. It wouldn't work now. It's too, and you
just said it. That's why we're harping on it, Matt, is to take it off the table.
That's right. We take it off the table. Nobody would believe it. They'd say Putin, and we'd say Obama and Soros.
But that's why the listeners still have to get this out. We've got to point out that Drudge carried our article, gets a lot of the credit. It's not about credit. We didn't know the conduits we've got. Within 24 hours, it was all over the news that it was fake. And it was MSM saying, Washington Post, you're fake. I love seeing them eat their own, which shows a lot of MSM's getting it. Hey, we're betting on the wrong team. How long until that metric hits and we see an almost total conversion of their own people?
I don't know. I think we've seen a few, but Politico still has Glenn Thrush. He's still going on NPR as an expert.
Sure, but Politico came out and said it was fake the next day too. That's one of them.
But people like Glenn Thrush, who said in his own emails, his Podesta emails, I'm a hack. Right.
He's been promoted to the New York Times.
Right, but he's still going on NPR and PBS as an expert. So, without admitting that he already admitted he was a hack and a propagandist. So I don't see many of them, much house cleaning going on.
All right, Matt, stay there. I'm going to come back, go to a few calls in the short segment, and hand the reins to you, Matt Bracken, enemiesforeigndomestic.com. So I'm just saying not just the next 17 days, I'd say the next few months is the most critical time in world history, quite frankly. We're living it right now. Matt Bracken?
Yeah, and even when we're winning, it might be the most dangerous time. That's when somebody might pull their own personal doomsday device. There might be their what the hell moment, for a George Soros. Aside from a great
I agree. If you don't think that guy doesn't have bioweapons and nerve gas, he's a James Bond villain.
But I don't think that he needs bioweapons and nerve gas.
Economic?
I think that he could. Economic, yeah, because if you crash the global economic system, all of our major cities, any city of more than 1 million people, and probably most cities over 100,000.
How dare you say someone who admits he loves crashing economies and starving people, how dare you say he might do that?
Well, I go back to my, Dr. Evil Mount Rushmore. If you're not going to see the next presidential election, let's say, you've been to Switzerland, you're getting total blood transfusions every week. You're eating fetuses for breakfast, whatever you're doing to extend your life. And the doctors are saying, you've got a year to go, Mr. Soros. Then in that case, he might say, all right, I'm going to crash the global economy. If that happens, if the ATM system, if the credit cards don't work, if the ATMs go down,
I agree.
If the electronic benefit transfer system crashes, our cities will be burning inside of a week.
So here's my final point. I'm not a guy that calls for, violent action, but he's a clear and present danger. He's outlived his shelf life. What do we do then? Do we just sit here and wait for him to do it?
Probably. I think he's very smart, and I don't think he's anywhere that somebody can take him out. He may, in fact, even have some kind of a dead man switch hooked up to the economy. Where
I think that's my next question. Why are they leaving him alone? He's the #1 enemy. What has he got?
he might have a dead man switch, like a terrorist with the like in Speed. You've got the dead man release button. If anything unfortunate happens to me, then the world economy crashes. Everybody sees gibberish on their computer screens. Then the lights go out, the cities burn.
Well, let me back you up on that. Globalists, every time the EU is about to fall or they go, do what we say or war. People always say, what do you mean? They'll start major wars. They're threatening that now. I think the dead man switch isn't just economic, man. I think it's war.
It can very well be. I don't think that at this point any naval commander would obey an order, say, to launch Tomahawks at Israel. They wouldn't. Or Syria. I think that there must be a lot of private conversations happening in wardrooms and in Air Force. Same situation. I don't even know what they call a wardroom in the Air Force. But what would we do if we were ordered to do something crazy at this point?
Sure, command and control centers. Command and control centers, SAC bases.
The National Command Authority. But the thing is, we might never know if it was George Soros. It could have actually just happened on its own. Just math alone, just mathematics tells us that we're in an unsustainable.
Sure, we're out of time. I'm going to hand the baton to you. I'm sorry to Andy. Andy, you say you're a writer? I'm going to give you our email. Maybe write articles for us, and I'll have you back on. Other callers. Sorry to get to you all. Matt Bracken's taking over the rest of the show tonight. I'm a little bit calm now from ranting, so I'm going to put some special reports now that I'm a little bit calmer, as well as at Infowars.com, so keep track of those and get them out to everybody. This is an info war. We can expose these people and stop them. Stay with us. We'll be back.